welcome back to my channel. My name is Alicia Rebecca Parchment and this is HR Talks with Leash. HR Talks with Leash. HR Talks with Leash. Where we talk all things HR. Join me on this journey to success from a HR intern perspective, not student anymore, intern, to one day becoming a HR professional. If you like the content, if you like what you see, please can you like, comment, subscribe, and push that notification bell so that you are notified every single time I post a video. And yeah, without further ado, let's just get into today's video. So guys, today's video is literally just a continuation of part 1 of my master's degree at Aston University. So today's video is part 2. I'm coming to you with basically like a background on what the modules are in term 2, and I'm just going to let you know like what the assessment criteria are and what I think of it as well, what I'd rate it, and just give you a little insight before you either attend uni to do a master's, to do any kind of HR degree, because I feel like the modules are similar throughout all universities in the UK and maybe abroad. So yeah, it's just for you to get a little insight. Okay, so the first module that I want to talk to you guys about is learning and talent development. So learning and talent development is basically the professionals in a sector which help and aid employees and also employers to make sure that they are utilizing resources that they have either internally or externally to develop professionals and to make sure that the workplace is a place where talent is always recognized and seen for what it is. So this module is a flipped classroom approach because there's no lectures to this module. It's all basically, well, most of it is done online. So you'll get a material at the start of the week for you to look through and read. You might have some questions to answer. And then at the end of the week, you're then able to go to a seminar, which is an hour and a half long. And this seminar allows you to get together with a small group of your cohort and, you know, discuss ideas that you might have about the content. And the lecturer there who's running the session will be able to kind of be there to clarify anything that you may, you know, not have understood properly. Obviously, I understand now in the time that I'm filming this, where in COVID-19 universities aren't really doing much face-to-face contact. I'm not sure what Aston's doing right now, but I guess a lot of content is going to be online anyway. So, but you'll still probably be asked to do like the work, and then maybe there might be a seminar session where you get together with a small cohort of people and discuss the ideas. But basically, the module is set out where you kind of go over the key concepts at the start. So these key concepts are like talent management and knowledge management, and you discuss what the difference is between the two terms, and you need to kind of understand those concepts because that's going to be relevant later on for the assessment criteria, which I'll go over later on. And then after that, most of the module is talking about training interventions and also evaluating training interventions. So you kind of get to understand like what is in a training life cycle, like how learning and talent development professionals will propose certain training initiatives, how they're designed, how they're implemented. And then once that's done, there's also always an evaluation process at the end. So you're basically going through a whole process of trying to implement a training strategy, and then that leads on to the assessment. So in the assessment, the first part of it, in part A, that's 1,000 words basically, and that's where you have to pick a concept, either talent management or knowledge management. I'll put like down below a description of like what each of those mean on this video somewhere, and you have to pick a concept and then you need to critically discuss it and analyze that concept. Then in the second part, which is 2,000 words, and that's basically a report. So you have to choose, you're basically given, I think there's like 3 or 4 different scenarios, and you're basically a learning and talent development consultant. You're working with other consultants and you've got to solve an issue in the organization in terms of if there's any issues with like the way that people are being treated or like the way that something needs to be improved. You're going to be creating a training intervention to be put into that organization to help them transform the way that things are done. So that's basically what the assessment is, and that is 90% of the module. The other 10%, when I was doing it anyway, was doing quizzes. So after each module, each week a quiz is put out for you to complete, and you have to get like 75% plus in order to pass that quiz in order to pass that part of the module. So then that's the other 10%. And guys, I'm gonna tell you this now, it's important to try and do those quizzes and make sure that you because you have multiple attempts. I'm not sure if they're going to change it. You have multiple attempts, so I'd say make sure you're trying to get 100% on each one, because it makes a difference. Like I went from, because my learning and talent development essays together, I got 67%, and because I got 100% in the quizzes every week, that got me a first in it. I got 70 point something. So it's very important that you do the quizzes to the best of your ability, and make sure you're understanding what the content is, because it's just going to make everything much more easier for you. In terms of like what my thoughts were with the module, you know what, I actually really enjoyed the module because I love learning and talent development stuff. I just like that kind of part of HR. I think it's interesting because it's kind of like you've got to think of something to kind of transform the way people are thinking, and you're affecting how someone can progress and learn. Do you know what I mean? So for me, I enjoyed the module. I really liked it. So I would actually give it like a 5 out of 5, because I actually really liked, like, even going to the seminars and discussing certain points and stuff. It was really engaging. And also lectures, for me, I get tired in lectures. So the fact that I was able to do it for myself and then talk about it afterwards, I think it was beneficial, honestly. So that's my take on that module. So the next module that I want to talk to you guys about is strategy, change and leadership. So in this module, it's basically allowing you to understand like how organizations like structure themselves and, you know, apply certain change management agendas to their strategies to ensure that they're keeping up with competitive advantage of different organizations. So within the module, you basically go over like understanding competitive advantage, and also understanding like the change processes when organizations acquire a company or whether they merge with a company. You'll also get to see like the strategic management of different organizations. So there's a lot of case studies that you get to look at in this module, and examples of industries at this current point in time which may have been acquired by somebody, may have had to merge with someone, may have had to completely reorganize the structure and process of their company. There's so many different like things that you can look at, and obviously now that we're in COVID as well, that could be incorporated into what you're doing currently, because the modules usually kind of stick to the latest kind of updates on what's going on currently, and obviously you've got, you know, cases that have happened in the past that they'll also go over too. But yeah, a big part of this is also change management agendas. There's different theories and processes that you'll be told about in terms of how different organizations may go about going through a whole change management process. And also you'll discuss the culture, politics, and how different strategies are affected by the way that different people within organizations think and do things. Some organizations, their culture is toxic, whereas others is, you know, very positive and vibrant. Those differences can either cause your company to become the best, or it can cause it to fail. Like there's a lot of different examples of that which you will be told about within this module. And then alongside that, we also talk about leadership and the essence of leadership, what it takes to be a good leader within an organization, the traits, the different traits that they have, relationships they have with employees and employers, how they lead certain change management processes. All these things are discussed in strategy, change and leadership. So the assessment of this module, you will be asked to critically evaluate like a strategy of any organization of your choice. So I mean, I picked the organization I worked at because I kind of understood like what they were doing, so it was easy for me to really look deep into their strategy. And once you've done that, once you critically analyze the strategy, then you need to kind of propose a change agenda that they may need to implement to make the organization even better. You don't have to choose an organization that you work at. That's just my preference because I thought it was easier to do that. But you can choose like any organization basically. But I probably wouldn't go with like maybe Apple or someone like that, because so many people speak about that and it gets boring for them to read. So I would go for like an organization that you find interesting to look at. And also in part B, then you're asked to kind of look at the role of the CEO in your chosen organization. you has to critically like analyze that. And then you need to look at the qualities of leadership that they have and possess and see whether that can enable them to make change or not. So obviously some leaders might have like a certain way of doing things, like they might be very transformational in their approach. They want to like really embody that change and make a difference, where others, they're self-obsessive or they're like narcissistic, and they might like, you know, want to just do things in one certain way and not really want to kind of grow with what the rest of the market are doing to stay on top. There's a lot of different ways that leaders do things. So it's analysing the chosen CEO of your organisation and seeing how they are able to implement certain changes. I absolutely love this module. Oh, before I go into this, by the way, so the assessment is 2,500 words and it's split into two parts, part A and part B. And I think they're equally weighted in terms of words, so you can do 1,250 words for each one, and that is basically 100% of the module. And then you have to do a pass or fail part for this as well, which is a portfolio of 500 words, and this is talking about like being a leader and your self-reflection on a workshop that you have to attend, which allows you to kind of understand the importance of, you know, embodying leadership and trying to see where you're at in terms of if you're a leader or not, and what you can do to improve to become a better leader and so forth. And this needs to be written into 500-word piece, which is a pass or fail part of the module, but has to be done for CIPD accreditation. Yeah, this module, absolutely love this module, because with this module, like you're able to understand like how organizations work and how certain processes are needed to be done in order for an organization to thrive, or if things aren't done in a certain way, they can fail. There's a lot of thought processes going on in this module, like a lot of thinking, a lot of creativity. That's what I liked about this, because I could really go deeply into an organization and really pick out what really needs to be changed and transformed to make it better. So yeah, I would give this module a 5 out of 5. I actually enjoyed term 2 modules, honestly I did. I thought they were a lot more exciting than term 1 modules personally. So yeah, I'll give this 5 out of 5. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed like the lectures for this one, because I felt like I was really learning something new. Like, I'm not saying I wasn't in like other modules, but this one, it felt like, you know, we were talking about things from an actual business perspective. Like the examples and case studies were so interesting. Yeah, I highly recommend this module. Love this module. So the next module that I want to talk to you guys about is assessment, performance and reward. So in this module, you'll basically be examining like key like principles of HR and like work psychology related things. So for example, we looked at like selection processes, like recruitment and selection. We also looked at the early stages of recruitment, so like, you know, the analysis, understanding like the people who you're trying to recruit so far, making sure there's no biases or anything like that. We also looked into like the selection processes and the way that people who are, you know, applying for positions are being assessed when they're selected. So there's a lot of different like ways in which recruiters will try and find the right talent, and we looked at like the validity and reliability of certain selection processes, and looked at like how these are used in practical settings, which ones are the best to use, which ones aren't, you know, the best to get certain types of results, so you understand who you're bringing into the company. So there's a lot of like different things in terms of selection that we looked over in this module. So the module was based on like lectures and seminars. So we had like, I think it was like 1 lecture a week, and then we'd have like a seminar, I think it was every 2 weeks, can't really remember, but yeah, it's something like that. So the seminar, we'd got into smaller groups, and that is where we'd work on the group tasks that we were assigned, which I'll talk about in a second. So the assessment of assessment, performance and reward was, we had to write a 2,500 word assignment, which was 70% of the module, but this was split into 2 parts. So the first part, we had to pick a selection, I think it was a selection process, and we had to kind of like look at the reliability of that process and how like individuals who use it, if they're using it in a valid way or not. Like we had to basically like evaluate that. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah. And then in the second part of the essay, we had to look at, to be fair, I can't even tell you because I still don't understand it myself. Yo, This module, yeah, listen, this module, I didn't get this module, so like don't even hold me on this one, because I still don't even understand it properly. This ain't one for me to talk on too tough. But yeah, the second part was to do with like, I can't remember what it was. Honestly can't remember. I'm going to have a look in my notes or something and get back to you on that one. The other modules, I can tell you what I did because I liked it. This is one module that just didn't make sense. Okay, so for the group work part of this module, I would say that personally, it wasn't the best experience for me, and obviously it would be different for different people because you're with different people. So but sometimes it's hard to communicate with people. Sometimes it's hard to get them to do a certain task, especially if you kind of know exactly how you want it, but you've kind of got to make sure that you're not overpowering somebody within a group, and you need to try and make them feel comfortable with, like, you know, contributing and stuff. But sometimes it was hard to kind of communicate the fact that certain things need to be improved. If I was to rate this module, I would rate it a 2 out of 5. And I'm saying that because personally, and this is my personal opinion, I didn't really like the module. I feel like maybe it's because the way it was delivered for me I couldn't take it in. And when I can't take things in properly, then I don't really do as well. And this is like the only module that I just couldn't get right. And I do think it's the delivery, because I feel like I did understand what was going on, but the way certain things were worded, like the questions for this assessment and stuff, was just a bit off for me. So one improvement that I would say is that maybe like the question for especially the assessment and the part B of it, the wording of the question should maybe be a bit different so that you can understand it better, because honestly I just didn't get it, and that showed on my mark, because I got, that was the lowest mark I got basically for the whole of my degree. So but I just didn't understand it. I did try and get it explained to me, but I still didn't obviously grasp it. And it wasn't just me that felt like they didn't understand the second part. A lot of other people in my cohort was like, we don't get this. So I don't know, maybe it should just be worded differently. And also like the content for that one, I feel like there wasn't a lot of content in the lectures based on that. So I was trying to find things from different sources. And then when I got my marks back, it was like, oh, you need to relate to the lecture. And I was thinking, but where am I relating to? But yeah, apart from that, like I like the content that was being talked about. That's one thing. I liked the performance management thing and basically being in charge of changing a whole performance management system. I think that's a really good concept and idea for group work activities. But obviously my group, certain members, I feel like could have been more proactive in terms of like trying to develop our work and making it the best it could be. But you know, you can't really do much about that. So but yeah, apart from that, like in terms of the content, I like the content. It's just some of the questions for the assessment for me didn't make sense. So research methods we already discussed in part 1 of this video. So if you do want to know a bit more in depth about what that is, please click the link up here somewhere. I'm going to put it up here, and then you can kind of look into that. But in term 2, research methods essentially was just going over like what we already learned in term 1, but just emphasizing that, and also understanding how we can collect our data and measure our data. So okay, so as part of getting your CIPD accreditation, you also need to complete a module called Managing and Interpreting Financial Information. So in this module, basically it's a pass or fail unit, but you have to complete it, otherwise you're not going to get the CIPD. You are basically going through and understanding how to kind of use financial information within an organization, because as HR professionals there may be times where like you need to kind of understand the financial side of things, obviously not in as much depth as like the people who work in the finance department, but it's good to kind of have that bit of knowledge about like numbers and stuff, especially when you're like trying to talk to the CEO or like executive heads of things about like, you know, big changes in the organization that require like finances and money, especially from the HR side if that's the case. So in this module we were able to kind of understand like how to analyze data and like balance sheets, and understand like the effects of costing, and budgeting, looking at cash flows, looking at profits and losses, and also presenting like a business case if we wanted to, like, you know, put forward an idea and put in like why we want to do this and the specific costs that would go with it. So yeah, there's a lot of things to learn. That's definitely for me a challenge because I'm not really like a maths kind of person, to be honest. Yeah, I basically like this module because it was different, but it was definitely a bit difficult, I would say. So it was hard to get my head around at first in some cases, but I was lucky enough to have friends around me that supported me and helped me, and also I was able to ask questions to like the module leader if I didn't get anything. So, but all in all, I think it was a challenge. I'd say it's a challenging module, and I would give it like a 3 out of 5 just because I found it a bit difficult. Some questions I didn't get, but the majority of it made sense. It was quite, you know, straightforward once you got your head around it though, so you need to get your head around it. But yeah, so finally I'm going to talk to you about the PDP Professional Development Program module. There's a load of different topics that are covered in this module which you can attend. Some of these are compulsory, you have to go to them, but others are optional. So some of the topics that are covered that are optional include like managing your postgraduate studies, project management skills, applying for, you know, jobs globally, improving your consultancy skills. These are some of the modules that are like optional, and then there's a few compulsory ones, and then there's some that are compulsory, but you will be told like which ones are compulsory and which ones are optional. Some of them are specific to cohorts, so if you're a part of like work psychology, for example, or business psychology, I believe, then there might be different sessions put on specifically for that cohort, and then HR would be basically in sessions on their own sometimes. So that's basically how that works. But it is very, I would say some of the sessions were very useful in just trying to like gain different perspectives on how to do things that for me will be necessary for my future. So for example, the consultancy skills workshop, I want to be a HR consultant in the future, so it was good for me to kind of get an insight into like what a consultant does and how I can use my like skill set to kind of embody consultancy and utilize that one day for what I want to do. Some of the sessions I feel like you don't really need to attend them, but because I really do think that personal development is down to you and like what you believe is relevant for your development. So for term 2, in terms of like PDP and the sessions that were run, I would rate it a 3 out of 5, just because sometimes I felt like that was very lengthy. Sometimes the compulsory ones were not for me, honestly, but the majority of the PDP sessions I do think allowed me to get to where I am right now in terms of my confidence and my build, because it gave me a perspective of how to try and do things in a different and creative way. So I do think that it's a beneficial module. So guys, thank you so much for joining me for part 2 of my master's degree at Aston University. I hope that you found the information that I have spoken about useful in some way. If you've got any questions on what I've spoken about in this particular video or any of my other videos, please feel free to just message me on LinkedIn or just comment down below. Comment down below on this video and let me know what you think about what I'm talking about. Let me know how you're getting on, if you've just started your master's degree in HR, or if you're at this point right now and you found this video and you just want to know maybe a little bit more about the topics. Please guys, this is for you. I want you to benefit from this, so just let me know how this video went. Let me know what you want from me. Like, comment, subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching my video, and I will see you in my next one.